Okay, there we go. Finally. Let me get this. Okay. All right. We are good to go now. Uh, as I'm still catching up on all my around the house stuff, because believe me, it was not easy. You have to think that starting end of March, I couldn't see well enough to do things, and then after I started having the eye surgeries, I had a lot of restrictions on doing things. So now I have to get my whole house from top to bottom and clean it. So, um, let me see. Hi, Judy. Hi, Janice. Hi, Ellen. Hi, Sonia. And Laura. And Cindy. And Vero. And Ronin Lou. Okay. Alrighty. Now, before we start on anything, due to the things that have happened in the last few lives I had, hi Christy and Susan. Right now, my sponsors have been very kind to accept to help me moderating this. Hi Donna. So, hi, Carol. Thank you. Yes, I know. She's a sweetheart. So if you'll see somebody with a little sign near the name calling you to attention, that means it's one of the moderators. And you might want to listen to what they are saying, because it's very hard for me to do things and pay attention all the time to the chat too, because I really need to look what I'm doing. Hi, Robbie. So, what we are going to do today is just a short, if you want, kind of like a preview to the. I'm preparing the Fimo leather effect video, and I will just give you ahead of time some tips about it. Hi, June. And I thought of making a few, at least one pair, hopefully more than one pair of earrings with the leather effect, to show you, because I know that people might get a little bit scared. Oh my god, how do I do that? Especially the beginners. And I want to, hi Rosie, I want to show you that there's nothing to be scared of, and that you can get a lot of stuff done without spending a whole bunch of money. Especially because right now female leather is very hard to get by, especially in the United States. What I ended up doing, because I keep waiting for Trish to get the female leather in her store, PolyClay Play. So for right now, we can get it from Europe, or we can get it, the only one on Amazon that I found actually fairly acceptable in price. And you can find these in the, there are two different combinations of colors. I put them in the Amazon influencer store. And they were relatively okay as price plus shipping. And it's true that the packages, you can see they're only like half a package, but still, you know, it comes down to an okay price. If you want to play with it, and I will do, I'm getting ready to do, but that will happen probably tomorrow. I'll be starting on doing some a female leather jewelry, both for YouTube and for my sponsors. And I still have to put out, because my sponsors were very understanding. I wasn't really able to do a lot when I couldn't see. And I still, I caught up pretty much with what I didn't put out in July, and now I have to come out with the August sponsor tutorials that afterwards you will see in the store. And by the way, the stuff that just came out to the sponsors, just a second, I'm trying to remember what I know, just a second. So what I just put out for the sponsors is this, who follows me on Instagram and on Facebook, because I showed this, is this special type of mica overlay, inlay, and all kinds of things. Hi, Carolina. And then I started last year, but then there were all kinds of things. I started the Foraku series, and this is the second one in the series. Let me get this just a little bit darker, because it seems to me that it's too bright and you cannot see certain colors properly. This should be better. So this is the second one in the Raku series. Let me bring the first one too. Hold on. And to make these vessels, there is a tutorial that I put out on YouTube how to make these vessels without leaving any kind of base inside. So these are pure polymer clay. There is no glass inside. This was the first one in the Foraku series. This is the second one. And I am working on a third one. And there also, I'm working on some Pueblo type, a faux Pueblo type pottery. So that's going to come soon for the sponsors, and also more things. Let me get them out of the way. So, that I posted kind of like a preview of the Fimo leather effect. And there were some things that didn't seem to work very good. After which I managed to figure out how to make certain things work, and what is very important for the Fimo leather effect. And all the details, you will find them in the big review and tutorial I'm going to put out. The thing is that what you have to keep in mind, several very important things. Number one, unless you want to do something that has to be very flexible, like a bracelet that you want to be able to completely wrap and put around, or some kind of whatchamacallit, bag, pouch, wallet, stuff like that. There isn't much of a reason to use Fimo leather effect. You can obtain pretty much the same effect with regular clay, including Premo. I mean, that I'm always very honest with you, and when you can do something cheaper, I'll always tell you. The other thing about buying all kinds of leather textures that are super expensive. If you look around, a good leather texture is at least $10 for an itty bitty thing like this. I have a ton of leather textures, and how I do my leather textures is with simply I get bake and bend clay, and I've shown in several tutorials and in a few lives how to make textures with bake and bend. That's a flexible scalpy. And what I did first, I just made a few flats like this, and I went through all my purses in the house and backpacks and stuff, and you simply take the texture off your purse. You don't need, this one is a really good texture for a leather texture. The other thing, and I had a time when I was, and I still do that sometime, but I don't go out of the house so much. I was, for example, I had a little flat, kind of like jewelry type cardboard box in my purse with several of these raw between paper wax. And if I would go, for example, like Goodwill to look for stuff, you know how they have all those purses hanging there Nothing stops you to look close at the purse, grab the texture out of it, and then put it in your purse. And that works for other types of textures as well. So you can save a lot of money on making thank you, Susan. Hi, Chris. On making your own leather textures without having to pay tons of money to get these. The other thing, when it comes, yes, you can use all kinds of leather tools and findings. But number one, what you have to consider if you try to do a leather something, you need, hi Colleen, you need to, honestly, if you want to imitate a leather pattern, a leather example of jewelry, a leather something, and I'm going to try and show you exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about the closures, you know. You have to think that you do not work in actual leather. And some types of fastenings, even in the leather industry, are not used on all types of leather. So, to give you a few examples, if you want to put, I'm trying to find an example, a perfect example of what I'm trying to tell you. This would be kinda. Just a second. I know I had them out here, but they disappeared from my search. Yes, we'll make something like this, I promise you, but I'll show you how to make it. Just a second, it's loading. I hope it's loading. Okay, so if you try to do something like this, you know, with all these grommets and things, that is not a good idea, because even when we are talking leather, it's only a very thick and sturdy type of leather that can accept that type of studs and grommets. The thinner leather is going to crack. The same goes for the fastenings. Do not use, if you use snap fastenings, it won't be long before your whatever you made, the jewelry, a bracelet, a necklace or whatever, before it will open. Yeah, grommets and snaps, that's what, snaps, grommets and studs, that's what I meant. Hi Francis. There's another, for example, there's another, so mostly for the types of closures that you find in the leather that I'm talking about, don't use. Number one are the snaps. So with the snaps, it's not a good idea. And then there's another thing. Everything that you see like grommets and snaps, they have a little lip around, and that lip, that's why you snap. Let me, just a second, let me grab some. I have one of them from the time I was doing leather. Because yes, I used to do leather stuff too. So this is a grommet thing. I even did the corsets. This is a grommet thing, and what happens when you put in a grommet, it's going to flatten that lip and catch the leather in between those lips, and that helps with the leather not cracking. And sometimes you can see a type of closure that's almost like the inside part of a snap, but the little thingy that comes out is a little bit bigger and it's almost like a ball. And then on the other side you simply have a round with a little cut that just comes almost like a button and buttonhole. That is done only in very, very thick and sturdy leather. Most of the time it's cowhide, very thick cowhide, because in any other type of leather, especially without reinforcement on the hole, it's going to start cracking along the line or sometimes even kind of obliquely. So yeah, eyelets. That's also eyelets. That's a good one. So you have to think that it looks like leather, but it is not leather. And definitely polymer clay will never be as sturdy and as elastic as leather. So what I would suggest you use, and I didn't bring again something else here, what I suggest you to use is a magnetic snaps. And I did that, I think, in the Empress bracelet. I showed you how to use a round neodymium magnet, round and flat, together with the washer. You can embed the washer under the clay, under a very, very thin layer. Yes, Judy, that's exactly the thing. The washer under very thin, and you have that in my Amazon influencer store. If you look in the jewelry findings, you'll find, because now I can kind of arrange them where it's in the closure things, you'll find a lot of magnets, and there are magnets and there's also little washers. And then you put the washer under the clay, and then you make, I normally just sacrifice one magnet because when you bake it, it's not magnetic anymore. So I have one washer that I have sacrificed that I put in when I bake the clay, and then I remove it and I simply glue a good magnet in. And that will look, and if you want to make it look like you have a snap or a stud or whatever, make one out of clay. And it's going to look just fine. The other thing that you can use absolutely, you can use the leather stamps. And remember, I showed this to you, gosh, what, 2 months ago in a live, or more than 2 months. I'll have to find that live. And I showed you a few other stamps for leather. By June, you can watch it afterwards, and definitely you can use these. And you can use these especially if you want to imitate a specific leather pattern. But this specific set is not very expensive. But if you want to buy beautiful leather stamps, if you think that the polymer clay stamps are expensive, think again, because when it comes to the leather stamps, those are super expensive. I mean, small stamps about like this can cost you $20 if it's a good quality, good line, because they have to be very, very fine lined, and they have to be very sturdy, because those get stamped, you know, hard, hammered in pretty much. The other thing that you have to think, if you decide let me finish with the stamps. Because the simplest way you can stamp a Fimo leather is with your regular stamps, and especially the cheaper ones, the transparent ones. I'm trying to get one. Oh. See, the ones like this. You can use these on your Fimo leather without any problems. And yes, when I'll finish and you'll see the tutorial on Fimo leather, I'll give you a lot of advice on what to use to color it, what to use to antique it, when to use it before or after baking, and all that stuff. Another thing that you have to keep in mind, and we are talking here about when stamping the leather, right? Don't go overboard. Normally the stamps are placed on a leather that is very fine and almost not textured. So even with this type of texture, me personally, I would be a little bit about stamping it in any way. It still is a pretty busy texture. You do not want busyness on your faux leather. Normally, if you don't put any texture on the Fimo leather, it's going to look like suede or like very fine lamb or deer. And if you really want to do a very fine texture, your best bet is the back of your hand. If you think it's not going to leave any kind of, I'll show you. It gives the perfect, where's my blade? There it is. It gives the perfect fine leather texture. Your own skin. Hi, Nunya. Let me just show you on a little piece here. Okay, if I get it and I put it over the back of my hand, and let's do a close-up. And if you are epilated, you can do that on your upper arm or your thigh or wherever you want, you know. But there you go. See, it's the perfect texture of fine leather. Let me lighten up so you can see better. And on this type of leather, you want to use stamps. Especially do not do any kind of stamping on a busily textured leather. You do not want to put stamping, for example, on a snake skin. Hi, Anna. On a snake skin type of texture, on alligator type texture, you do not use stamps on those. Those are already because why do you put stamps? To embellish. A very strongly textured leather does not need that type of embellishment. That's why when you see like snakeskin or crocodile or alligator skin objects made of leather, purses and whatever, you will never see those with stamps. They would have beautiful big embellishments of metal. Most of the time it's gold on alligator and crocodile and silver on the snakeskin, but you do not use the stamps. And that is not a good idea. So if you want to use all these kinds of embellishments, use very fine leather look. If you want to go for the more sturdy, grommetty, chainy type, then yeah, you can use something like this because you're trying to imitate the heavy leather that those are made of, and that is a lot of times it's pig leather, can be even cowhide, and that it's got some lines like this. But as I said, you can get it. I cannot get up and look for it. You can get it from purses without any kind of issues. And another thing that is very important about the Fimo effects, when you are designing your piece, think about it not needing to go in the oven again. It states clearly in the, and I thought I had one here. Oh, I put it back in. In what Statler says about it, that Fimo leather effect should not be rebaked. Let me find and see if it's here. It says on their website and everywhere. Let me see if I can find it in English here. It doesn't say here, but it says on their website, and it said when they so essentially it's do not bake for more of 30 minutes, and it's going to make it a little bit breakable. And yeah, do not exceed 265. I honestly baked it at 275 and it worked fine. 270, 275. It will change color. It will darken a little bit. And as I'm working on the clay conditioning tutorial, that's going to be very extensive and show you the whys and the hows. Some clays do change color after baking. But I think that for now, this is a good example of what to do and what not to do. As you can see in this one, I made, I'm going to try and get it a little bit closer. Give me just a minute. It got too dark in this light. This is actually made with this texture I showed you, but it's somehow flattened. And it's a specific combination of two colors, and I'll show you how to make it. The light here doesn't let me show it very well. And I made it look like old leather. But I will show you how to do. Let me get this one that's not cut. And can you see the surface? And yes, it is bendy, it is all that. And I'll show you how to color this and how to, while the ones we'll be baking, we'll make we'll finish these ones, put them together for a pair of earrings. Okay. Hi, Laus, the handle. I love the way she did her neck. Anyway, let's get to work. First of all, kind of figure out what would be the size of what you want to make. Another thing that you have to be aware of, you'll have a little bit of issues to get it very thin. It might have the tendency to kind of fall apart. Okay, it's still too bright. I'm still having brighties. There. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a few slices of the black. And yes, I did get a marble, but I need to finish rearranging and reorganizing, and then I'll get to that, to put it up here when I don't need special measurements. And then we get a few slices of, this is, let me see if it says what colors there are. It does not. It does not say what colors. It just says it's 12. So, oh well. It's a brown, light brown. Don't forget to always wipe your blade after you cut, because remember, it has the tendency to stay, I said this before, has the tendency to leave some of those little particles on the blade. And I'm going to get a little bit more of the brown than of the black. And of course you can make other color combinations, but I'll show you how it interacts. Remember that I do a lot of times, I will do the chop and mix thing, and that is valid to obtain this specific effect too. Only it's going to be a little bit difficult because it's quite sticky. So what you can do is to pretty much do this: cut on one, cut on the other, get back on the one, so just in case it gets stuck to the blade, because that way they are already mixing. I'm sorry for the sound. So until now, do you have any question about this whole thing that I can answer you in case you want to start doing something with it beforehand? And yeah, I will have another surprise for you soon, that I don't want to say anything about it, because you know who's watching my lives like a hawk. So you just keep mixing until you get it kinda smallish. Kinda get it all mixed like this. And this is pretty much it. And now watch this, I'm going to switch to the other camera. So first of all, I'm doing this. I'm going to make it into kind of a cube, but I'll show you after each pass how the whole color of the sheet changes as you keep passing, because I do not want to do a mix of these two colors. Yeah, you can leak it a little bit, leach it, not leak it. Why did I say leak it? I don't know. Okay, let's switch over to the other camera, and now watch what happens. So this is it, right? I'm going to get it like this, and then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. Again, this is what we got. I am folding it, turning it 90 degrees. See, it started mixing a little bit. It's almost, it's similar a little bit to the souffle with how it mixes grainy, but it's even, I mean, it's different, obviously. Look at this beauty. See how it looks like old leather already? Worn out leather. You could actually use this. But I'm going to do one more pass, because I still have these areas here that I don't like. But look at this. And then I'm going to use one more pass. This time I'm going directly. And then I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to a 6, 5 or 6. I'm good. I'm going to do one more time. See how already it looks Gorgeous. And one more time. This is pretty much what you want. Now let's get back on this camera. And most of the time, and I'm going to tell you that most of the time, most of the leather earrings that you see out there, they are pretty much in this style. You have a teardrop of one color, then another teardrop smaller inside of each of another color, and then maybe a third one of another color, and they are just put together, and that is it. This is based on the same principle, only that we are going to make it look a little bit like a feather. And you can use the teardrop, or you can use one of those water lily petal cutters that you can find at PolyClay Play, that you've seen me using many times. And again, you don't need a whole bunch of clay for this. Let's put this aside. And my next thing is, after I trim the blade, wipe the blade, my next thing is to texture it. Is it too dark? You want it lighter? Let me make it a little bit lighter, because even if it's shine on my hands, you might see better what I'm doing here. And I might actually do a little bit of zooming, so you can see better what I'm doing. There, is it good? Trying to figure out if the focus is okay. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is texture it. And I'm going to grab you don't need to use a release on it, because you see it already has, I said you don't have to worry much about texturizing it as it is, because it looks like a regular fine leather. Yeah, so don't put texture and then use stamping. This will be perfect for stamping. It looks like lamb leather. Then I'm going to take my texture, and I'm going first to give it some texture. And here you can always use a little bit of you know, like one of those fine cuticle clippers, or simply do this if you have any ragged edges. But this is what happens with leather, you know. So don't worry about fingerprints, because you don't have to worry much about the fingerprints. So I'm going first to give it a little bit of texture on this side. And see, I have a little bit more texture than I had before. And then I'm going to put it here and give it some texture on the other side. I don't want to completely smash the texture I already put, so it's still there. And this will look exactly like weathered leather effect. And then I put it with this face down so I wouldn't smush it. And there we go. We have it nice and textured. For the next thing, I'm going to probably soon have to put on my readers. And you want to work on wax paper, because tile is a little bit too shiny. And I'm going to put it with the side that's not waxed, because the side that's waxed is very shiny, so I don't want it to be shiny. My next thing will be to put a little bit of powder, and you can use, I would generally on this kind of stuff, I would use either a whitish, beigeish, or a turquoise blue or a sage green. And why I keep using these, not sure if you heard me say before, these are used to, they stand, they don't get washed very fast, and they cling to the clay pretty good before you bake it. I mean, you can see here that they are still here, and I did before a couple, no, more than a couple tutorials with this. I did an antique leather. Actually, let me see, let me find it, because that's a good example of how to use these powders. Hey, you dumbass. Sorry. Let me see. Yeah, I did use them on this one, and actually this is the video, the tutorial in which I showed how to make, I think so, yeah, you can do denim like for it, and I think they might even have a denim color. Hi Rusty. So in this tutorial I just linked is where I showed how to use the magnet with the embedded washer. Okay, and this is the artisan powders review where I showed you how to use artisan powders to create gilded leather effect. And this is just with plain Premo, it's not even Fimo leather. But I'm going to use the Trianon Patina, and you can use, of course, you don't have to use these. These are a little bit more on the expensive side, but you get so much, and it's such a good quality. It is way finer than any chalk pastel. If you cannot afford to do this, you can buy any and use any chalk pastel. Just make sure it's a soft pastel, because not all chalk pastels are the same. Let me see, I closed it wrong. Oh my goodness. I might have to go and get the jaws of hell to open this. Hold on. Never mind, I only had to snap it closed properly. Okay, now I know I had the paintbrush here. So I'm first going to place some of this mostly on the edges. One other thing, this clay seems to get the color, thank you Stella, seems to get the color a little bit, it's not as easy as, it doesn't get the color as strongly as other clays. You kind of need to use more, because if I would put this on Premo, it would be pooh, turquoise right away. Doesn't matter what color I would put it on. And I can show you actually how you can do an even better effect of weathered weather using actually 3 colors. That would be your best bet if you want to do this kind of weather effect. All the 3 that I told you about. But you don't need all 3. One of them will still give you the effect you're looking for. But actually, as we are here, let me show you how it would look when you use all three of those colors. Bye, Chris, and you can watch this later, of course. Let me try and close it properly this time. Okay, let me grab the other two colors. As I was saying, you need a very light, no, you don't want to use mica. You need a flat pigment, not mica. You don't, I mean, when leather gets weathered, it's not shiny. It doesn't have sparklies in it. So one would be a very light beigeish or off-white. This is the vintage ivory, and that would work perfect for what I need here. And as I said, you can use chalk pastels. And chalk pastels, you can find cheap chalk pastels like under $10 for a box of a ton of colors. Just make sure that you get the soft. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of this ivory. And you see, this one I'm not placing it all over. Hi, Catherine. Make sure you answer my message, okay, on Facebook, please. Because I sent you a message. Because I need that updated information from you. And then I'm going to use a very sagey green. And this is a box that I opened wrong, and it always opens wrong. I don't know why. Okay. And this one I'm going to place where I didn't. Again, just in a few spots. But you'll see the magic happening the moment I will start burnishing these. Okay. Hi, Barbara. I'm sorry. You know, you don't have to have it backed up right then. You can watch it after. If you missed the beginning and missed some of the information. Let me just puff these away. Okay, now let's see what happens when I start blending. And you see I'm going first like this, because this movement will push the powder in the clay even more. And I'm going to do the same here. And then I'm going to clean my paintbrush real good. And I'm going to start gently, pretty much removing all the excess. And you can blend like this, because by now it's got all the effects it had to have. You don't want to have perfect different color spots. And I think it needs just a touch more of the whitish one. Just a touch. and push out the excess. The difference is very subtle between what was and what is now, as you can see, but it's enough to give you the effect of weathered leather. And I'm going to do this, and some of it will come again off while we're still working with it. Now you have a few options here. If you want to go without doing what I'm going to do next, you can simply bake this like this. Push these together and put a toothpick through it, and you'll have a pretty leaf-like earring. But I'm going to go and do more. So first I'm going to make them look feather-like. First I'm going to impress a middle here. And yes, I'm using the toothpick because it gives him more of an impression. And I'm going even to go like this. You don't want to go too deep because you don't want to get it all the way on the other side. And do this only on one side. It's better than doing it on both sides, because otherwise it will thin out your clay a lot. Now the next thing is to make the fringes, and you want your fringes to go pretty much up to here. You don't want them to go all the way in. You want to leave it this is a very common real leather earrings design, coloring with the turquoise and stuff including. It's very common when it comes to leather jewelry design. Can you see well what I'm doing here? And of course you don't have to put the color there. You can just use it as is. It already looks like old leather, you know. And don't worry about this, it will come off by itself. You'll be able to separate them properly. I'll show you in a minute. And you can do this before baking or after baking. It's completely up to you. But do this before the ruffling. If you want the ruffling to be more ruffled, then you'd better do it before baking, because once it's baked it will kind of have the tendency to still stay relatively stiff. So if you want the ruffles to be more rufflety, I know I'm inventing words, don't I? Hi Elaine, that's okay. Judy's here, so if Judy needs to take a break, I guess Elaine can take over. Yeah, Fimo leather effect, Catherine. Okay, so you have it. See what a pretty effect it gives with all that powder coloring. Now, you for the person who asked me, because I forgot to say, just didn't realize. Um, if you don't go for the weathered look effect, of course you can use mica powder. And not only that, what I would actually, I mean, if you don't have anything else, use mica powder. But what I would actually advise you to use would be the Prima Marketing Art Alchemy waxes. Those work beautiful on leather and on faux leather, especially for the effect of gilded stuff. And you can actually obtain a very nice effect with these, but it's quite a bit of work to get them realigned and disaligned and realigned. I might show you in a tutorial, not in a live, because that takes too much time. Hi, Christina. But yeah, so now don't forget that pretty much, as I said in the beginning, unless you want something that is super flexible and with some of the things, because you won't be able to do that kind of mix that I just did with another clay, there's no need really to spend a ton of money on the Fimo leather effect. You can get the leather effect with other clays without a problem. But if you're trying to do stuff like this, stuff that's flexible and moves really good, then yeah, that's what you need. You need the Fimo leather effect. And then there's another clay that hopefully I'll be able to show you next week. Okay. All right. So you see, it's a little bit, not a lot, but it's a little bit of work to separate these ruffles. Can you do it when the clay is baked already? Yeah, you can use some scissors or something. But think about this. If you mess up when it's raw, you can fix it. If you mess up when it's baked already and you cut a fringe on the side, yeah, this is why I said that for this type of earrings you need to use the Fimo leather. It does hold pretty good. If you want your ruffles to be rufflety, you use Fimo leather. Okay, so these can go in the oven now, because this is what happens. That's what I was showing you, what I was working on when I first started. These were unruffled before I baked them, and if you want them less ruffled, you can simply separate them after you bake, but they will not be that rufflety once they got their shape already being baked. They won't be as and did this one. Okay, let me go put this in the oven before I do anything else. Okay. Ruffle tea. Yeah. Okay, so let me finish ruffling these ones. And you can see that there's a little bit of the powder that comes off. These actually, I made them thinner than the ones I just made, and I'm going to put 2. Per earring. But what you can use for this specific thing, of course, you can use you cannot use regular varnish. If you're trying to use regular varnish on, or you know, whatchamacallit, a shiny gloss, or like Judikin's diamond glaze, or like deep shine, that is wonderful on a lot of things, but not for this. What will happen every time your object, your piece of jewelry is bent, your varnish is going to crack. So that has to be thought very carefully, what you're going to use to seal your stuff. And the best thing to use is Renaissance wax. And there are places where you can find it in smaller, because the big jar is quite expensive. But there are places where you can find it in a smaller jar, and it lasts forever. You don't need to use a lot, and it will enhance the leather look even more. It might look like it masked the color of the powder, but once it settles, it will reappear. No worries. And remember, the idea is to give it a very weathered look. And why the green? You're gonna ask me, why the green and the blue and the... Okay, this is my... I think this is my nail polish. Because this is not copper. Why? Because even organic material, when it starts molding, it gets greenish and bluish and whitish. And if you've ever seen molded leather, this is how it looks like. It's going to, because it depends also, yeah, there is no copper in the leather, but some of the tannins used for tanning leather, all the chemical compounds used for tanning leather, they will have all kinds of chemical-y stuff. Oh no, I think I actually used the Renaissance wax on something glittery before. It will teach me to not clean the surface of the wax. Yeah, and besides, you know, talking about varnish, only vinyl is shiny. Leather doesn't have the glossy look that varnish leaves. So now, normally you'd have to wait for it a little bit to harden before doing other stuff. But this is essentially what you're doing. And as I said, yeah, you can ruffle them after, but the ruffles won't be as, and they'll have the tendency to come back to their original shape. Sorry, there was an edge there that wasn't very good. Oh, and another tip before the big review tutorial, if you intend to, because remember when I did the short preview when I first got the Fimo leather, when I did that and I tried to sew the baked clay, if you intend to have anything sewn on it, just poke the holes when the clay is still raw, you know, and then it's going to be very easy to sew it without breaking it, like it happened in my preview. Okay, so oops. Let me clean my, see how the color came back once the Renaissance wax got sipped in. Now we need to poke some holes for the jump rings. And another thing that you can do once you do this, you can put all kinds of charms. Okay. Oh yeah, I was going to show you what you can use for closings besides the magnets. You can use these. If I can open them. That they are not. Oh, they are still taped. Never mind. Never mind. These are also magnetic. Oh, come on. I untaped you. What do you want now from me? There we go. You can use these that are also magnetic, and I'll show you in a day or two how to put these. These are magnetic clasps and they are very, very strong for cuffs and for some necklaces if you want to. And they hold. I mean, they are made for leather, so for a much higher weight than polymer clay. But I was looking for charms. Sorry, I'm grabbing the necessary for earrings. Somebody keeps messaging me. Oh, that's Catherine. Okay, thank you, Catherine. All right, I got that. Do I need anything else? Yeah, I put quite a bit of feather charms in the influencer store as well, in the charms section. If you want feather-like charms. No, I don't know. Not sure if I have any feather charms myself, which I might not. I'm not gonna spend the time looking for them. Let's grab some chain, though. No, I was hoping I have any turquoise beads left, but I don't. Sorry, no turquoise beads. Okay, now let's start putting this together. If I get my... I can be horrible. Alrighty, now I hope I have everything needed. So, yeah, remember that I'm spending total probably like 3 hours a week on that store, trying to find the best prices and such, and the most interesting things. And you are going to ask, why didn't you poke the holes before baking? And I'm going to tell you why. I forgot. It's better to poke the holes before baking. Yeah. I think they might be. I'll have to check if they are, and if I put them in the store yet or not. As usually, on some things I first try them, and then oh, I forgot to get bigger jump rings. Duh. Remember, whenever you do a hole in polymer clay, never start directly with the big bit, because you risk the polymer to crack. And honestly, I didn't try. This is something I didn't test yet, so I don't know if the Fimo leather would crack, but I'd rather not take the chances. But as I said, it's better to poke the hole before you bake, unless you forget like I did. Hi, Fran. Hi, Rusty. And I'm glad you like those, Susan. Okay. Now let me grab the larger jump rings that I forgot to get. Did I get these here? No. This is what I wanted to get, sorry. Got the wrong double coils. Alrighty. Yeah. See, I normally get my whole box, but as I'm reorganizing and rearranging and stuff, I don't have room for it now. Yes, you can. You definitely can, Catherine. Oops. Don't let me first cut some of this. Yeah, this is one of those things I bought from the Chinese store. This was $1. So you see why I'm frequenting that Chinese store. I buy stuff that I can take apart. So if we go about this long, should be good. No, come on. I thought I caught you. And I didn't. All right. So this is a plier for double coil rings that helps you a lot, at least helps me a lot. I had a lot of issues before getting it because that little ring they send to you never worked properly. So I'm going to get this. I forgot that these ones don't have a, so you can put any kind of charm you want. I'd prefer to get those tiny feather charms, but I forgot to buy some and I'm completely out. I think I used the last ones when I did those earrings with special brass effect, copper effect. come on, get in there. Let me see if I did the hole big enough or I need to get that back. Yeah, it's working. Oh, come on, get in there. I'm sorry, it's my hands. Can there we go. Yeah, I could have made the hole larger to get these more dangly, but I kind of want them to be a little bit more fixed. They are okay now. I mean, I still don't see well with the other eye, but we're gonna have to check and see what she's going to say on the 22nd, because that's when I see her next. Okay, is this the front? Yes. I always have this thing, I put this on and then I'm like, okay, I just put them backwards. And there we go. So this will go on the left side of the ear. If you want them to come even more in the front, then you add another jump ring here connected to this, and it will move the whole earring towards the front. Hold on, let me go grab the ones in the oven. Never mind, they are not done yet. But I promise you that you'll have a tutorial done with. Now it dinged. Of course. I went there, I looked at it, it wasn't done, now it's never done. Yes, I was saying you'll get a tutorial on how to do several models of easy peasy faux leather earrings. I promise you. Alrighty, so let's get this again. Yeah, somebody asked me if I'll ever do wire wrapping. Probably not, because I stopped doing wire wrapping when my hands started going bad. It's really difficult for me to do wire wrapping, beading, certain types of embroidery, pretty much because, as I said, I have arthritis of the base of the thumb, so anything that involves pinching like this, it's very painful. Now you'll have to, Catherine, you'll have to just message me, because I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't follow a lot of people. I'm going from time to time, and even if I do follow, you know how Facebook is, kind of doesn't show you everything that you follow. But my news feed was getting horribly inundated for the little time I spent, because I don't pretty much spend the time on Facebook just to, what the heck did I do here? Just to respond to messages, and very rarely I go on the news feed. But it was getting super busy and was making me waste time. I'm not gonna kid you. You know that I'm in a permanent battle for time. So I tend to avoid anything that might take me away from doing what I need to do that day, you know. That's why I am not part of groups on Facebook, because I have the tendency to start contributing. And that, for example, I didn't find time to update all those nice memes that I post on the Kalyana page on Facebook, just because I didn't have time. I've been working around the house, finally cleaning the house and putting stuff in order, and then I get very tired, as I normally do those. Takes me about 2 hours every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I just schedule them. Oh, come on. Yeah, I cannot hold this. Okay, so this goes, hold on, let me not put it backwards. So this goes on the left, so this has to go on the right. So we go this way. There we go. Mess it up. All right. So there we go. Let me remove the zoomy. If you want them to be more dangly, just make the hole here larger. And you'll have, look at all my mess, but I need to show you how they look like when they are straight. I make this brighter. So I'm not going to bother you into finishing the whole thing. But I'm going to still show you how it looks after you apply how these look after applying the Renaissance wax. Now remember, when I first apply it, it will almost look like the powder and colors disappear. And then once it settles, and the fun part is that the Renaissance wax will actually make it smell a bit like wet leather, because it's got this turpentine smell. Yes, and you can do them in all kinds of colors. Stuck here. Get back there. Okay, now let's look at them from close up. The look of old, greasy, stained, moldy leather, pretty much. And yes, these are still flexible. You might have to get them again a little separated if they get stuck to each other, because this is an area where you cannot really put a lot of release. Because if you do this on regular clay, not a lot of clays will stand the ruffling and will start breaking down when you start manipulating them. But yeah, look for the there's still Renaissance wax. Look for those little feather charms, because these look the best when you just put a small feather charm here. It looks absolutely fabulous. So I guess this is it for today. I've been up and on for what? Oh, close to 2 hours, 1 hour and 45 minutes. Yay me, I am so good. So I hope for before next live to be able to finish that scarabs necklace, because I promised you I'll do the beads separately with the faux lapis. to show you. Okay, we'll talk about that in private, Catherine, not on my live. Yes, please. All right. So, as I said, I hope to be able to do the beads for the scarab necklace, and we'll be able to finish for the next live. And if not, then I'll do again something really easy, because remember, the live broadcasts are mostly for beginners, because I cannot be here for hours to gracias, Laura, to be here for hours, unfortunately, to show you a more advanced. But I think that in my audience, the beginners are a very important part too, because I want for them to gain trust in themselves and to know that they can make beautiful things without being super advanced in doing clay. All right, and maybe I'll do another tutorial with no clay tools. All right, so I'll see you next Sunday, and don't forget, if you are here for the first time, to like and subscribe and follow me on Facebook and on Instagram, because I'm posting all the time stuff that I'm working on, and on Facebook you see the memes. So check the video description to see how, and I'll see you all next Sunday. Have a wonderful Sunday. Goodbye. I love you all.